This is Bentonville. Located in Arkansas, it has a population of 60,000 people. It has a world-class art museum that cost $1.2 billion to build, hundreds of miles of mountain bike trails, and one of the fastest-growing local economies in the country. The family that paid for most of it, the Waltons, heirs to the Walmart fortune, is worth $480 billion. That's more than the GDP of most countries. About 1,200 miles east, in Oriental, North Carolina, there was a grocery store called Town & Country, which had been there for 44 years. In 2014, a Walmart Express opened nearby. Town & Country couldn't compete with the prices, so it closed. Less than 2 years later, Walmart closed its Oriental store too, part of a nationwide closure of 154 stores that year. The town was left with no grocery store and no pharmacy. One arrived, killed what was there, and left. Oriental is not a unique story. It's the story of rural America's relationship with Walmart, told in one town. Sam Walton didn't build Walmart by competing with Kmart and Target. While those retailers went to cities and suburbs, Walton targeted the towns everyone else had passed over. His reasoning was straightforward: cheap land, weak competition, and customers with nowhere else to go. The first store opened in Rogers, Arkansas in 1962. By 1967, all 24 Walmart stores were still within Arkansas. The expansion moved outward from Bentonville gradually and deliberately, like a ripple in a pond, first saturating the counties within driving distance of Walmart's distribution centers before pushing into the next ring of territory. The distribution center strategy is what made it work. Walmart never opened a store too far from a distribution hub it already controlled. The competitive advantage depended on keeping supply chain costs low, and lower supply chain costs meant lower prices than anyone else in the market. So the expansion didn't just follow population, but also network. Arkansas first, then Missouri and Oklahoma in 1968, then Kansas and Louisiana, Tennessee and Alabama, Mississippi and Georgia through the 1970s. The South and the rural Midwest were saturated with Walmart stores for a decade before the company opened in a major city. By the time it arrived in Chicago or Los Angeles, it had already spent 20 years running in the towns that competition had forgotten. The way Walmart expanded had a logic to it. It started near Bentonville and moved outward in every direction at the same steady pace, never getting too far ahead of its own supply network. What that produced was a company that could sell things cheaper than any local store. No independent hardware store or grocery could buy products at the volumes Walmart could, so none of them could match the prices, and none of them had the money to keep losing customers for years while waiting for Walmart to move on. When Walmart arrives in a town, residents are usually happy about it. Lower prices, more selection. A store that sells groceries, hardware, clothing, and medicine under one roof. What the town gets in the short term is real. But according to a 2013 study, within 15 months of a new Walmart opening, between 4.4 and 14.2 existing retail establishments close, while at most 3.5 new ones open. In Pana, Illinois, where Walmart arrived in 1983, the town had 3 independently owned pharmacies. All 3 closed. In Whitewright, Texas, a grocery store called Pettit's had been in business for nearly 60 years. It closed 9 months after Walmart opened. A 2008 study tracking small discount store closures across the country between 1988 and 1997 attributed 40 to 50% of them to Walmart's expansion. The business closures are the visible part. The wage effect is less visible but runs across the whole local economy. One new Walmart reduces retail wages across the entire county by 0.5 to 0.9%. Not just at Walmart itself, but at every store still open and competing for the same workers. The mechanism is straightforward. When the largest employer in a county pays a certain wage, every other employer in the same sector faces pressure to match it rather than lose workers. And every worker in the sector has less leverage to negotiate above it. In states with an average of 50 Walmart stores, retail wages run 10% lower than they would otherwise be. A UC Berkeley study estimated that by 2000, Walmart's national presence had reduced the total retail wage bill across the country by $4.5 billion in a single year. A retail pharmacist in Pana, who kept her job after the independent pharmacies closed, was now working in a county where Walmart had reset the wage floor for her entire profession. The money that used to stay local, in the hands of the pharmacy owner, the grocery store owner, the hardware store owner, all of whom lived in the town, banked in the town, spent in the town, now flows to Bentonville. The Walton family owns approximately 44% of Walmart, Walmart generates around $600 billion in annual revenue. Sam Walton structured the company as a family partnership in the early 1950s, giving his children 80% of his stake before it was worth anything significant, sidestepping the estate taxes that would have applied had the wealth transferred after his death. His 3 surviving children, Rob, Jim, and Alice, are each worth over $100 billion. The family as a whole is worth more than Elon Musk. Bentonville is what that looks like from the receiving end. The Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, funded by Alice Walton, sits on 120 acres and houses one of the most significant collections of American painting and sculpture in the country. The Walton Family Foundation gives away $500 million a year. A foundation recently provided a $239 million loan to the city to fix its sewer system, a loan rather than a gift, which generated its own local debate. The city has grown from a farming town of 6,000 people in the 1970s to 60,000 today, with further growth projected. Major companies have relocated corporate offices to Northwest Arkansas to be near Walmart's headquarters. The region has attracted the kind of investment and infrastructure that most rural American towns haven't seen in decades. The states where Walmart first expanded and most thoroughly saturated, Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia, Kentucky, rural Arkansas outside of Bentonville itself, are among the poorest in the country. Walmart didn't create that poverty. It targeted those regions precisely because poverty and weak local competition made entry easier. But the specific mechanism ran in those communities for decades. Local businesses closed, the local wage floor dropped, and the profits from all that spending moved to Arkansas. And when Walmart closed 154 stores in 2016, disproportionately in lower-income rural areas, those towns were left with less than they had before Walmart ever arrived. The local competition that might have filled the gap had been gone for 20 years. Sam Walton's original insight was that rural America was underserved. He was right. The towns he opened in needed cheaper goods and more retail options. What they got was cheaper goods, fewer employers, and a wage floor set by a company whose profits went to one family in one small city in Northwest Arkansas. Bentonville got a world-class art museum. Oriental, North Carolina got an empty building where the grocery store used to be. The difference between those two outcomes is Walmart's business model, running exactly as intended. The question was never whether Walmart would work. It always worked. The question is who it worked for. And the answer has been the same since 1962, when a single store opened in Rogers, Arkansas, and the ripple started moving outward.